Hi, Bio4. Let's continue on here to part 6 of muscle. Okay, so we had stopped when we were talking about the sliding mechanism of contraction of muscle, and now we want to see the innervation of that. So we're moving on to how a nerve or a neuron interacts with all this system. Okay, so the question is, where does that stimulus come from for a muscle to shorten? Okay, so if you were to take a slice, a cross-section of the spinal cord, and you looked at these exiting neurons, so let's follow one of them, the red one. So you follow the red one and look at it. Look what happens to this motor neuron. This motor neuron is moving on to one cell here, and then it branches and it goes to another one here. And then let's look at the purple one, a different purple neuron is going to branch and go to this muscle cell here and branch and go to this one here and that one. So each, in this diagram, it looks like each one of those muscle fibers has a neuron that's going to it, giving it a signal, okay? But the question that arises is, does every single cell, muscle cell of your body, does every single skeletal muscle cell of your body actually need one of those wires, one of those branches of a neuron to give it the signal for it to fire? Or just being like in the vicinity of another one will make all those muscle cells contract? That's the big question. So I've posted here for you in writing. So does every skeletal muscle cell need a stimulus? Or the contrary to that hypothesis is no, it doesn't. It could just be like in your quads, for example. You have a big muscle bundle and you would just have a few neurons coming to it, and then in unison, all of that muscle would contract. Okay, that's hypothesis number 2. So which do you think is correct? Hypothesis 1 or hypothesis 2? So in order to really understand all this, we need to think about motor units. What does it mean to be a motor unit? So be sure to get this down. One neuron, okay, and all the muscle fibers that it can reach, that it innervates by branching, right? That is one motor unit. So how many cells in a motor unit within something like the gastrocnemius? Big muscle. And then we'd want to think of how many in the eye, for example. Okay, so let's go and take a better look at what this is when we're talking about a motor unit. So when we're talking about a motor unit, we have one neuron. This is my neuron, and it's got one axon, but that axon has the ability to branch out a lot. So it can branch here and here and here, and this one's going to branch here and there. So the way I drew it now, it's showing that it's branching to this muscle cell and to this one and to this one and to this one and to that one. Okay? All of this whole thing is a motor unit. It is one neuron plus all the muscle cells that it is sending its signal to. Now you could have a second. This is number 1. And then you could have motor unit number 2. So you have another one. And this is also coming to the vicinity, that let's say it's coming, I'm going to branch it I'm going to make the branches in orange. It's coming to this one, and then it's branching out to this one, and then this one's branching out here, and this is a branch. And all these muscle cells are part of motor unit number 2. Okay, and these cells, we could keep doing that. We could add another motor unit and another one and another one. So if we had a third one here, we're going to call that number 3, and we're making it green, and this one is branching out to here, and then branching out to there, and it's branching out to here, and this one we're going to branch out to there. So we have motor unit number 3. So what's the point of this? When you're thinking of, when you lift something, like I'm lifting my pen here, you're thinking about how much force do you need? How many of these muscle cells do you need to stimulate? Well, if it's a very light thing, then maybe you would only need one motor unit and a few cells. If it's something heavier, you might need 2 motor units. If it's more, you need 3 motor units. And the number of cells that it branches out to varies. Okay, that's the big deal. It varies. So let's go back to the slide here. And the question here to you was, how many cells in a motor unit within the gastrocnemius? Well, maybe 1,000. Okay, so instead of just the 506, maybe these, you could have 1,000 muscle cells. And then the next question there was how many in the eye? Well, let's assume that this purple one here, this motor unit is a motor unit in the eye, and this would only branch to maybe 6 or 10 muscles in the eye. Why would that be? Because in the eye, you need to have very fine motor control of where you're looking and how you're focusing. And so it would be sort of gross motor for you to have lots of muscle cells following the command of just one neuron. That could happen in the gastrocnemius or in your quads, where it's just going to have to do one thing, contract, and you're going to, you're going to extend your knee, for example. Okay, whereas in the eye, it's fine motor control. Okay, so go back to motor unit. We're talking about motor units because that's what's going to fine-tune your muscles and how that signal comes to muscles and how strong that signal needs to be. If it's a sort of a soft signal, it'll probably be 1 motor unit. If you need more force, you're going to increase the number of motor units required for that particular task. Okay? This is a real photograph, not a diagram, where you see, this is awesome, you see this neuron branching out and sending a message, right? That's where it attaches. So it's the neuromuscular, because that's the muscle, junction. It's where those two come together. Neuromuscular junction. Amazing photograph where you could actually see that in your muscles. You need a really nice microscope for you to, be able to get a photograph like that. So this is a drawing then of a neuromuscular junction. You would have that neuron, and it's sitting on the surface of a muscle here. And down below, as you see here, is where the sarcomere is. So the signal is going to come. It's going to send an action potential to the muscle, and the result of that is that the muscle is going to release calcium. And if it releases calcium, it's going to be able to contract. Right? That's a summarized story, and you'll learn more of that when you get to physiology. So let's stop this now. Thanks.